Gosh, this is actually pretty freaking good. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. Today I want to talk to you about Grok Code Fast 1 and Cursor. This was actually introduced a couple of weeks ago. I've been rather busy with other things, but I wanted to get to this because I believe that the trial ends tomorrow on September 10th, so I wanted to give it a shot first and see how it works. Anyway, you can see that it's supposed to be fast, it's a daily driver for coding, and it's supposed to be able to take care of large-scale projects and everything. Anyway, I am used to Cursor, so I'm going to try it in Cursor. So we are going to flip over to Cursor. And what I did was I went to Cursor settings and I just deselected everything else. I'm not exactly sure how else to force it to use Grok Code Fast 1. So anyway, that I believe will work. I'm going to give it two tasks. The first of them is to create an entire website that can run on a local host. And then the second one, assuming that I have enough tokens left over and stuff, I'm not exactly sure how that all is going to work. But anyway, assuming that I have enough tokens left over, I'm going to have it do a general relativity simulator. So both of them fairly complicated, but in different ways. So anyway, I created the description like externally to this because it's too much. So I'm going to tell it, I need you to create a full website for me using, TypeScript, JavaScript, HTML for a consulting website that I'm putting together. So let me start by creating the project. So you can see it's actually working and run npx. So let me move myself over here and let me just go ahead and say run. Yes. Oop, there we go. Okay, so it's off and it's going, and hopefully it is working, consulting. So I assume it's going to start a new project. I'm not exactly sure because I don't see it. I don't know exactly how it works because I've always just kind of come into a project and not actually created one. So this is a little bit of annoying because I guess it's asking me to install this. I've already got NPM and stuff like that installed. So not exactly sure why it's doing that, maybe because it's a new project. But anyway, we're going to let this thing go and see what we end up getting out of this. And I can see that we have a 6%. So I think that may be 6% of my tokens used up at this point. But anyway, we will see what happens. I'm going to let it do its thing and we will see what we get when we come back. Okay, so just breaking back in here, it's finished the installs. I'm not exactly sure why it had to do the reinstalls again, but whatever. Let me create the project structure and start building the components. First, I'll create the main layout components. So yeah, you can see it's working, and you can also see it's chunked through 8%, I believe, of my tokens at this point. So hopefully it will finish before we get to that point. I would like to be able to do the GR one as well, but if not, we will just stick to this. I wanted to do this first because this is a full website. It's a full, not just a page, but a website. So it will require many files, including many different types of files with heterogeneous things like TypeScript and React and HTML and JavaScript and so forth. So hopefully we will get something interesting out of this in just a few minutes. So quickly breaking back in again here, you can see it's creating each, like the home page, the booking site, the speaking site. I gave it a list of different pages that I wanted it to create. We've got the about.tsx, all of that kind of stuff. And so for each one, it's asking me to confirm, which is a little bit annoying. We'll see that in just a second, whether it's actually done that or not. Yeah, so you can see, let me create the remaining pages. So I'm having to keep clicking accept, which I didn't think I needed to do. But anyway, I don't know if there's some weird vagary about the fact that I'm just creating this from scratch. And usually I have a project that I've built previously. Don't see the project over here on the left yet, so hopefully it's actually doing something. Anyway, in the meantime, I will be back in just a minute. So again, breaking in here quickly, it's created all of the pages, and now it says it's making a main CSS file to add global styles and ensure it looks professional. Perfect. It's already properly set up. Readme.md. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't even ask for one of those, so it's creating a readme for this. And now it wants to start the application server, so we will do npm run dev, and I'll just click run. So basically, I've just been clicking run. It'd be a little bit better if it would do that on its own and wouldn't ask for that stuff. But again, maybe there's some setting that I don't have properly set anyway, so I'll click run for that. So it does the copy URL. And npm run dev, try again. Let's see. Okay, so now we've got some errors. Okay, so it looks like it's trying to debug itself as it goes. The weird thing is that at this point, I still don't see the project on the side. So it, let's see if it's working, base, running. Okay, so just have to keep saying run. I think I can just hit the return key. So let's just see if I can just return. So I just got a whole bunch of permission requests. So maybe that will actually help it at this point. Import, found 11 errors. Okay, I need to fix the TypeScript errors. So it's going through. I mean, it didn't do it completely with one shot, but it appears to be fixing the errors as it goes. So that's a definite good sign. All right, so it took several attempts at this. You can see it had to work and work and work, but it actually did work. And then when I finally, it actually got up and running, I went to localhost 5173, and you can see that it actually does have a site. Ooh, there's a little bit of activity as I roll over it. Watch our story. So let's see if, I don't know if the link actually works at this point because there's no actual video. Book, wow, okay. All right, I like my rates. Very, very nice. I am, by the way, looking to do consulting at this point. So if anybody's interested, hit me up. But this looks pretty good. The one thing I would say is at this point, I don't like the white so much because I'm going to ask it to do a darker theme and see how quickly it can overall redo this with a little bit more of a darker, more modern theme. Okay, so I said nice job, but overall, can you make it the darker and more modern theme? The background, the white background is blinding. So there you go. I can talk. Here we go. So anyway, it's perfect. I can see the development server is working great. Let me update the theme to a darker, more modern. So yeah, so it seems to be crunching along really, really well here. The weird part is at this point, I still don't see where the actual project is. So I'm not exactly sure where this thing is located. I'm going to have to go hunt it down on my hard drive because it's got to live there somewhere. All right, and after reworking its way through there, you can see that it actually has a much more elegant theme, I think much nicer and darker color and everything. Gosh, this is actually pretty freaking good considering what it did. I mean, I've got the YouTube stuff, I got about stuff. There's a lot of placeholders, obviously, because I don't have the content, and obviously placeholder consulting and home. This looks really, really professional, and I think that this is actually a quite usable website, which is just remarkable considering it took about 15 minutes for me to do this from scratch, just basically waiting for it to do things. I didn't do anything. And just FYI, I was able to ask it where it lived, and it's actually under my name, under consulting website. And here you can see all of the files. And so I can actually mess with those inside Cursor, or of course I could mess with them myself. I could go in with a text editor or Cursor and manually edit all of that stuff. So this is very, very remarkable. We've got about 43% left. So I'm going to try my GR thing and we'll see how that goes too. So again, I open the settings just to make sure this is a new window and everything, and you press Command I, or I assume Control I on a Windows machine. And basically I want this to create a Python file or series of files. I don't know, I'm not being very specific about that, that shows Newtonian versus general relativity comparison in a visual manner. If you haven't seen, I've tried this before with other things, but I wanted to try this inside of Cursor and see how it works as a kind of overall project. And again, especially with Grok Code Fast 1. So here we go. We've got a plan that it's creating. So this is great. It's actually creating the plan and doing all of this kind of stuff. It does look like it requires me to reinstall things at different points. So it's kind of weird because Cursor should have a lot of this stuff installed already. So I'm not exactly sure why it's effing me reinstall it, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. This one, it seems to be taking off and working much more quickly on because I assume we'll probably do this in just one or two files as opposed to creating a whole bunch of files like it had to for an actual website. And by the way, it looks like it ignored me here because I told it to do it in Python, but it looks like it's doing it with HTML5 canvas, which I guess is fine. But I was interested because I wanted to see what it would look like if I did it with Python as opposed to HTML. But we will, at this point, we'll let it go and see what happens. So just as a quick note of interest, down here it has 1 of 6 to-do items, so it's actually creating the files, and it's basically a list of tasks that it has to do. So you can see that there's a reasoning model that's sort of sitting on top of this that's working through the other pieces of this puzzle to create the content that you're interested in, right? So it's at a high level, it's going like, what are the tasks that I need to do to complete? And then it's either shipping itself off as a sub-agent or it's shipping off an agent to do this. So now it's actually going through the task. Oh, actually, we're up to 4 of 6 now, so it's working quickly now that it finally did the gravity simulation.html file, which I think is on my desktop. Yep, interestingly enough, not sure why it put it there instead of at the root level, but anyway, that's where it is. And you can see that it's going through one at a time. It's making it more educational, more visual, physics information display and update with JavaScript, update the JavaScript to handle the new display option. So I wish it had done it in Python just because I wanted to see a variety, but at this point, I'm not going to worry about that too much. It seems to like to do HTML and stuff like that more than the others. And since it's trying to do an entire site, I would probably just use Grok itself if I was interested in just having a single file that was a Python file. So anyway, go ahead and create the README file. Why not? Sure. I love that it's creating the README files, even though I don't ask for that, but it's actually great because that means it's very easy for other people to come and look at the code and look at the README, figure out how to use it and all of that kind of stuff. And voila, we got something right away that we can run. And let's see, I don't know if I can drag this. Yep, so I can drag it and then I can press play. Oh, very cool. So which one? Initial position, display, show physics information. Okay, so the GR is the red one, the Newtonian gravity is the blue canvas. So it's got, wow, that's cool. So the Newtonian one you can see is doing a kind of a looping thing here. So let's go ahead and reset this. And I'm going to drag it out more. And the mass is a solar mass. Let's see, reset, pause. Whoops. Okay. Well, I guess it should say start. Okay. So you can see that the GR one, the general relativity one, is just falling straight into it. Initial velocity. There we go. That's probably what I need to do, is just set that. And let's go ahead and drag this point out someplace a little further. Whoops. And resume. Yeah, it's still going very quickly. So let me increase the initial velocity very, very high. And then resume. Does not seem to want to go. So let me see if I can just drag this manually out, set the very high time acceleration. Okay. And reset and resume. Yeah, I'm not sure that that's working because it looks like the GR one is being attracted very, very rapidly. So I think the physics are actually off in that, but I have to say that the simulation and everything looks really, really good. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and tell it one time real quick, and then we'll call it a day, because that wasn't really the point. The point was to see if it could, generate this code and everything. I think considering that Grok Fast 1 is more for coding and less for reasoning, you might have to use some combination of the two of them to get a better actual simulation, because the simulation is pretty complicated math. Looks like it's got the Newtonian thing down, but it doesn't have the GR one. So I told it what it was doing, and it says, you're absolutely right. It has a bug that's causing the particle to fall in the central mass, so let's see if it's able to fix it. All right, so let's try again and see what happens now. We'll give it one more shot, and we'll go ahead and play. That looks better. And it still went in, but that's okay, because the GR will cause that to happen. So let's reset. Let's drag it out here again, and let's say resume. No, I still think it's a little bit much. So yeah, it still has some ways to go, but I think that the visuals look great. It's kind of like a radar screen or something like that, old school radar screen. So anyway, I like this. It looks like Grok Fast 1, sorry, is very, very good. It works as advertised. It looks like it's able to create a lot. I don't think it has as much reasoning capability as the larger models, as we're seeing here, where it's unable to do the basic fundamental research. So I think you might have to do a combination of things, but in terms of mocking up a website really quick, I mean, holy crap, that's something that would have taken days for me to do, and it just did it in about 15 minutes with me basically hitting go, 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 go every time it asked a question. So that's pretty remarkable stuff that it's able to handle. Alrighty, folks, that's what I've got for you about Grok Fast 1. Let me know in the comments if you have had a chance to use it yet, and what kind of things you'd like to see. I personally would love it if we could have some sort of multi-agent system where perhaps Grok 4 could call Grok Fast 1 from inside of itself, right? So you could actually run a larger model, a reasoning model like Grok 4 or ChatGPT 5 or something, and then it could call another agent like Grok Fast 1 to actually write this stuff in Cursor. That's where we really start to see an acceleration of this stuff. But as for creating multi-document projects pretty much instantly, this is pretty darn cool. I think you've got to admit that. I'm very impressed, and I will definitely be using it more in the future. Let me know if you will as well. And while you're down in the comments, if you don't mind liking the video, that really helps out. And if you want to see more of this kind of content, please consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.